Hey, what's up, Isolation Nation? We are back on the Daily Jase live show. I'm joined by event cover, underwriting manager, the man, the myth, the mystery, Stu Hartley. How you doing,
man?
mate?
Yeah, good, Jase. Good, Jase. Thanks for having me on, man.
How you been?
I've been good, mate. Yeah, I've been good. As well as we can be. But yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, holding it well.
Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. When people say that they're an underwriter, my mind jumps completely over to WWE. It sounds like a wrestler move or a wrestler name. What is an underwriter for the people?
A bit of history. When the kind of basis of insurance or how insurance started was from a coffee shop owned by a Mr. Lloyd in London, hence Lloyd's of London, and they were looking to insure marine cargo and the likes, and a contract was drawn up, and signatures were written underneath, underwritten, underwriter. Simple.
Oh yeah, nice.
That's it, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
For those out there that don't know you, just give your quick five, what you're all about, where you're from, where you were born, how you came to be on this podcast here today.
As per my dulcet tones, I'm a native of Manchester, and I came to New NZ in January 2011. So just kicked on. Well, that'll be 9 years now. And yeah, underwriting manager for event cover and wedding cover, which is specialized underwriting agency focusing entirely purely on the event space, including the wedding industry as well. Yeah, my background's pretty varied. Yeah, grew up in Manchester, trained as an actor, then graduated from university, moved into film and television as a cameraman, and as most people do in insurance, kind of fell into insurance, but needed kind of needed to focus on what I loved and what I've been involved in, which was the entertainment side of it. So kind of mixed those two together and started focusing on the event space, with a kind of an insurance understanding as well.
Oh wow! So I know that the event space has been rocked by what's going on. Obviously, no large gatherings are allowed, or no one's allowed their house at the moment. But when we're in level 2, no large gatherings of more than 500 were allowed. What happens with insurance when that happens? Because like people think of insurance, they're there to save the day if there's any money issues. But obviously, this is a huge event. Almost every event is affected by it. So how can insurance come in and help people out?
It's been a really difficult time. The word unprecedented has been used often, and is a little bit, we're kind of sick of hearing it now. But it really was. It's been an unprecedented global incident, let's say. And usually in New Zealand, we're kind of safe from anything that's happening around the world. And then when this lands on our doorstep, it kind of knocked us for six, which it did with everybody. From the insurance space, we haven't seen this before, obviously, and most events didn't insure for this, and that is a grim reality that we're living in. Insurance was available for a pandemic of this nature. You could purchase insurance to cover an incident of this nature, and your event was cancelled. But we never saw this coming. So the numbers that I've been using are something along the lines of probably 10 or 20 events that we have been involved in the last couple of years took out the insurance for this. And I believe that only one of the events, which was cancelled through ourselves, was insured for an event of this nature. And that's mind-boggling, because it's on one hand, it's painting the picture of, should we have known better? Like, should we have been looking at our risks better? But on the other hand, I don't think we can't blame ourselves for that because we just didn't see it coming.
It's pretty hard to plan for a once in a lifetime event, right?
It is. It is. I mean, you work in events, you understand how budgeting works and so forth, and understanding your own risk. And first off, you don't see it coming, you don't anticipate it happening, you certainly can't afford to pay for the insurance for something that you never wanted. It's never going to happen. So most people didn't take it out or even have a conversation about it. So in hindsight, everyone would be like, oh, in hindsight, we all took out insurance and we're all covered for this. We didn't. We never had conversations. We never discussed it. We never asked for it. We're now all learning from it. And when every single event has been cancelled, the industry has really, really been rocked by this. And that's the industry around the world. I think we're hearing out of London, there's going to be losses $7 to $10 billion just in the event space.
Holy moly, that's huge.
So putting that in perspective, which is quite difficult to grasp, that's going to change. That's going to change the environment of the industry, both the events and the insurance industry, forever. It's going to mean that insurance is hard to come by. It's going to mean that insurance is expensive. It's going to open people's eyes to understand about insurance. I don't mean to sound horrible in saying this, but people will become more educated off the back of this. Whether we can insure ourselves again in the future for a pandemic of this nature, we just don't know.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting that you said that the event space will develop. I think that we'll see more momentum after we've come out of lockdown. Everyone will be craving those events. They want that connection. They want to go out and maybe party, maybe go to sports events, maybe just get out with large crowds, feel that connection again. And I think we'll be also seeing little niche events pop up every now and again. It'll be your mums and dads in the community wanting to get a few people together, so they organise maybe a small market, or they organise a small gathering, a party, maybe a rave, whatever it might be. We'll see these little niche events popping up, and it'll be really interesting to see how the industry grows from here.
It is. And I don't think we're going to go back to what we did before, where we kind of took everything we had for granted. People are now going to be embracing what we have, and the event industry will learn and adapt and improve off the back of this. We're having some horrible conversations at the moment, but we're having some very good conversations in respect of where are we going to go? Is the industry going to flourish off the back of this? Has it been one of those light bulb moments whereby we needed something of this nature to kind of bring us back to reality again a little bit? And where are we going to go from here? Yes, people, once we're allowed out, are going to want to, kind of go back to some sort of normality. But I think the normality will be different from what we had before, and events will adapt. We're seeing a real increase in kind of digital hosted events, online seminars, conferences. A lot of speakers and MCs and things like that are still getting quite good amounts of work off the back of MCing or speaking on online conferences. I'm receiving numerous emails per day in respect of conference has been cancelled. However, we're bringing it online, and that's totally new.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I had Cam Calcoen on the show yesterday. He received New Zealand Speaker of the Year for 2019, and he said that he jumped off a conference call to London. He was giving a speech to a corporate over there, so that everything is developing online, and it's really cool to see how everyone adapts in times like these.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see where we go to and what the future looks like. It's horrible at the moment to imagine what it's going to be like, because obviously it's not looking very good at the moment. But in saying that, there's some excitement there. These businesses will struggle, and some businesses will definitely go out of business off the back of this. But those that are able to adapt, there's definitely going to be some light at the end of the tunnel, and there's got to be some form of excitement there. I'm certainly excited about what the future holds, and if we're still here, touch wood. But yeah, there's some changes will happen, and the industry will come back stronger than ever. I've got no doubt about that. It's just we've just got to get through how long this takes, and then we'll.
Yeah. Do you think this affects the big players more or the smaller players with regards to the events industry? And because I know that there's some smaller players that may have not touched on insurance, and those bigger players would have needed it and required it when they run their big events. What do you think? What are your predictions in the eco space?
I'm really not too sure. We've kind of got to wait to see, what happens when the dust settles, and who's going to come out of this. In respect of who took out insurance and the small players compared to the big players, it seems like there was a real. Most events didn't see this, didn't ever take out insurance to cover this. So we're seeing some of the larger events, which are in the same boat as the smaller events. They didn't insure for this either.
Yeah.
We saw yesterday the likes of Wimbledon's been cancelled now.
Yeah, I saw
we've
that.
Seen the Olympics go. We've seen the Euro football, and we've seen some very large-scale music festivals. I'm saying it's probably going to be a 60-40 split across those that did and those that didn't take out the insurance. Okay. My expectation is that the likes of Wimbledon would have done. Yep. And they will be compensated accordingly in respect of their insurance, and they'll be rescheduling next year. But you'll see events who we saw the Queenstown Cattle Fair or the conference down in Queenstown, where we had
the one where quite a few people caught the virus. Yeah.
Now they weren't insured for an incident of this nature. I don't believe they had insurance at all for that. And they've gone into liquidation, and that's the kind of first one that I've heard of that's really been affected by this. Would insurance have helped them in that situation? Possibly, without knowing the full details. The one event which did take out the particular insurance through ourselves, it was quite a large global congress, and they took it out for a total different reason because they're based in the veterinary space. So they took out a communicable disease cover to cover the likes of like a mad cow disease outbreak. So they took it out for a total different reason. But it was the best money they've spent because they're fully insured. The losses for them would have been in the millions. And luckily, they made the call to take out the insurance. Most didn't. Almost all didn't. Even some of the largest events in New Zealand that we work on haven't. And we're having some difficult conversations. In the wedding space, we've gone from large scale events cancelled, and we were kind of hoping that smaller events would be left alone until we did the full lockdown. So we moved to level 4, and now we've seen, all events cancelled. So we've seen the wedding space hit hugely because couples just don't know, and this is, Joe Blogs, me and you, just don't know what to do, and they're kind of stuck in limbo. They didn't have the option to take out the cover, so there is no cover for cancellation in the wedding space. And what we're trying to do with those guys is if they're able to reschedule to next year, then we're looking to provide assistance to them going forward. No additional cost, no additional charges. And this is just highlighting again, anything could happen. There could be any reason why an event could get cancelled. And these are weddings that can cost $5,000, compared to $500,000 wedding. And they're both in the same boat. The losses when compared are the same,
Yeah. I just want to go back and to a point you touched on about your big events with your Wimbledons, your Olympics, the big music festivals. Obviously, they have many international visitors coming to those events. When an event like this happens, there's a response that differs from every country, right? And I think although we'll be able to run events nationally when this dies over a little bit, we still will see border controls, countries in lockdown. We'll have to be far more strict with who comes in and out. So how does that affect those big events?
They're gonna change. They're gonna have to adapt. We've seen
that's a huge revenue stream for them and for the country. The economic benefit to the country when all those visitors come in is huge.
Yeah, and we've all seen the reports that are coming out from Air New Zealand in respect of, they're probably going to go towards focusing purely on domestic, and that's mind blowing. That's Air New Zealand, one of the best airlines globally. For such a small country, our national carrier was, way above where we really should be.
Yeah, they're such a great brand and good people.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's going to have to focus purely on domestic. With limited amount of international travel. Taking that over to the event space, you're right. Our events industry is kicking with the big boys. Our industry that we've built here in little small New Zealand is on a global scale. We've got now, from what I've seen since I've been in New Zealand, back in 2011, when I first came here, and there was no real huge touring artists. They usually stopped in Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, and didn't really come to New Zealand. It wasn't really part of their tour or their leg. And over the last 9 years that I've seen, a tour or an event in New Zealand is there. We've seen some huge artists now come down to New Zealand. Elton John. I think the first gig that I went to when I came here was Foo Fighters.
Oh yeah.
And they've been here probably 4 or 5 times since.
Where'd you see them?
That was Western Springs, 2011.
Imagine. That's a cool venue.
Yeah. And so you look at events like that. How's that going to happen? We're now going to have to see the kind of the homegrown type events really kick on. 660 have done an amazing job in respect of their summer tour. Unprecedented ticket sales for a small New Zealand band. That's huge, and that may be where we go. Conferences wise, speaking to the guys at Convention Incentives, it's like they're heavily reliant on selling New Zealand, on getting global events to come here. And where's that going to go? How is that going to affect if we're kind of on a lockdown? So yeah, it's again, until the dust has settled, we don't know where we're going to end up, but it's certainly going to change. Certainly going to change the environment because we are so heavily reliant on revenue from overseas, whether that's in tourism, whether that's in hospitality, whether that's in events. It's certainly going to change our environment anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it with our own events. We had quite a few internationals that were booked to come to our events in September for the New Zealand Junior Rugby Festival. Unfortunately, a lot of them have had to put their plans on hold. We had teams from Kiev and Ukraine. We had some Australians. Some of them are still coming or plan to come. We have to just see how everything develops. At the moment, we're still kicking along like we would in a normal year. We're hoping that we can go ahead as planned in September, but again, we just have to watch what the government does.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the conversations I'm having are, it's that kind of same spirit. It's it's kind of business as usual up until we're told it's not. So a lot of people are in that mindset. I can't get out of this mindset because if I do, I'm just going to go downhill. So focus. Let's kick on. Let's keep on planning as much as we can do until we're told we can't. At the moment, we're on a 4-week lockdown. That may extend.
What's your predictions? Gut feeling?
My personal opinion is we'll probably, I'd say 6 to 8. I just don't know until we see that curve flatten out a little bit. Me and my family anyway. We're hunkered down. The kids are doing okay, and we're just focusing on each day as it comes.
That's the one.
And if it extends further, then we need to get more Lego.
More family time.
Exactly. Yeah. And our focus is just making sure that we're okay, that we're safe, that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, and not planning too far ahead. But I can certainly understand from an event professional, in respect of events that are taking place later towards the end of the year, start of next year. The back of people's minds is, when do we pull the pin? I'm seeing events cancel now, which are kind of July, August time. Obviously, each event is different, so there'll be different trigger points in respect of having to make a call in respect to cancellation. But yeah, it's just kind of a waiting game, and that's what's scary for some people. The unknown, that fear of the unknown, is a killer.
Yeah, you've got to be able to adapt, and I suppose just come in with a mindset of this is the situation we're in, and could go a number of ways, and you just have to take it as it comes, right?
Yeah. And as I said before, there's some comfort there that people are so strong. Our nation, kind of triumphs constantly, and Kiwis just fight. That's what we do, and the industry will bounce back. The tourism industry will bounce back. Hospitality will bounce back. It will be different than it was before, but opportunities will arise from this, and there'll be niche little markets which will come out of this. There'll be a huge amount of opportunity, which just comes out of left field, and specifically in the event space. I can honestly see some real good things come from this. I honestly can, because it's just in our nature to kick on. That she'll be right attitude gets us so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it really drives everything we do, and people will be hurting, people will be struggling. There'll be some sleepless nights, but then there'll be some clarity, and that's what'll take us through, and that's what'll drive us on. Again, it's just a waiting game at the moment. But I mean, your mindset is fantastic in respect of, we're still going ahead. It's still going to happen. Yes, it may be in a different format, but that's our focus until we're told otherwise.
Yeah, we're quite lucky in New Zealand, I think, because everyone has this attitude of she'll be right for one, but also we care about everyone else. It's definitely not the same in a lot of countries around the world. Everyone's quite individualistic, but here we have a really strong sense of community, and I think the government has done quite a cool job with their pay packets that they're giving to different businesses. I just want to jump sideways a little bit. I know you have roots in the UK. What's the feeling going on over there at the moment?
From a personal perspective, speaking to friends and family, there's just a huge amount of confusion. Obviously, they've just gone through the Brexit.
Yep.
There's still a lot of animosity towards the government in respect of whether you were pro or against that. There's still a lot of animosity towards the Prime Minister, and there's a lot of confusion. And confusion drives that fear and that anger. And they've got and they didn't really make the call to lock down as we did quite early. They kind of played it out. So for one, huge amount of confusion, a lot of worry, and their numbers are rising quite rapidly, and that's quite scary for me being over here and seeing my family affected. I've got family in Portugal, friends in Spain, and they're in a different space than we are. We've been lucky where we've probably put in place guidelines quite early in the piece, whereby certainly the likes of Spain, Portugal, Italy, the UK probably didn't so much, but obviously they're on a much larger scale. Industry wise, that's until that dust settles, we really don't know where. And as I said before, from a Lloyd's perspective, we're seeing losses in the billions, and that will be because that will be driven through the likes of the Olympics, the large football events, the Premier League football, the large scale music concerts. The losses will be huge. And that will obviously then have a knock-on effect with us down here. But again, it's a waiting game. It really is a waiting game. So I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible when I'm having conversations in respect of the event space in New Zealand and insurance. Rates will increase. It will be more difficult to get insurance. There may be some players who don't exist off the back of this because they'll go out of business in insurance syndicates. It's going to be a rocky ride, but we can only do what we can do here in New Zealand and take care of our own. And what you hit on before was spot on. The industries come together, the nations come together. What we're seeing is suppliers and vendors who are hurting as well have come to the party. Everyone's helping out. Everyone's helping each other, making sure that the losses are minimal, that we're looking to the future, that we're trying to reschedule a lot of these events. And that's been fantastic to see, that everyone's kind of come together and said, hey, we're all in this, which we saw as well off the back of the Christchurch attacks last year. The real sense of that community spirit really came together. But again, we kind of, as much as we kind of got through that as best as we could, and we'll do the same here. We're lucky that we're probably so far away from the rest of the world, in so much that we are a small nation, and our numbers, will probably be on a smaller scale than the rest. But yeah, I think our sense of community and family down in New Zealand will really get us through, which will differ from what I'm hearing and seeing in the UK. Yeah.
Hopefully, all your family's all right over in Portugal, Spain, and the UK. Thanks for sharing those insights. What do you think, or can you just explain how the mechanics of insurance actually works? Because most people think of insurance, they think of someone like yourself, but what happens in the background, and how can people, I guess, how can they help their situation, but also help you guys deliver the best product suited for them, I suppose?
Okay, what we've been, our kind of reason for being over the last couple of years of setting up event cover in 2018 was to be as transparent as possible, and make sure that conversations were taking place. We've tried to be omnipresent, and we've tried to get around as much as we can and have as many conversations as possible, because firstly, people don't understand insurance.
It's a complicated world if you're not in it.
And we don't want to understand insurance because we have we have other things going on. So car, house, life, health. Those are the things that we purchase as consumers. If we own businesses, we have business insurance, and we use insurance brokers or intermediaries who provide that advice, and we put our faith in them without really necessarily understanding it ourselves. In the event space, you as an event professional yourself, you have to look at your own risk. How do we put on the best event for our participants and our spectators? How do we manage that risk, and how are we able to transfer that risk? So that is insurance. So the mechanics of insurance are transferring the risk of something going wrong over to an insurance company. And we work directly in some respects. So we work with events and event professionals, but mostly that will come through insurance brokers who are there to provide the advice around how the insurance works. But again, most insurance brokers aren't specifically focused in this in our industry. So
in events, you mean?
Correct. Yeah. So a lot of the conversations are taking place directly between ourselves and the events industry themselves. So it's making sure that we're educating at the same time as providing a service of transferring that risk. How insurance works is there's two ways you can insure an event for cancellation. That'll include postponement, curtailment, rescheduling, and so forth. We'll either cover the irrecoverable costs and expenses and put you back in the same position, or we'll cover your costs and expenses and the net profit that you would have lost or you would have earned had the event not been cancelled. And that's kind of the basis. So here in New Zealand, there's many reasons why an event could be cancelled. The main one is our beautiful weather, and really the focus is on adverse weather. So most events in New Zealand will be, taking advantage of our beautiful scenery and our beautiful country. So they'll be outside, and the risk there is that we have 4 seasons in one day, and anything could happen. So
absolutely,
it's usually on. What happens if it rains? What happens if there's an earthquake? What happens if there's if something happens over that nature? Terrorism was never discussed until Christchurch, and we obviously saw a lot of cancellations off the back of the Christchurch attack. And in context of this conversation, a cancellation due to a communicable disease was never discussed, or very, very seldomly discussed. And what we've seen now is probably the part of insurance that nobody purchased and nobody understood and nobody discussed is what's entirely wiped out the industry. And the trigger point there was if the government did what they've done. So if we've gone to a full shutdown, your event is effectively cancelled because of a government instruction or guidelines or an international body. That's what the policy covered you for. So until that happened,
it's quite general. It's not. It doesn't really talk to an epidemic. It talks to the government response as such.
Yeah. So it's a communicable disease. That's what we refer to it in insurance, and that's a general exclusion under every event insurance policy. Communicable disease is defined as a virus which can be transmitted between human and human, or animal and animal. And it's quite a general kind of definition of how that works. And then you would kind of purchase that extension effectively. So you put in place like a communicable disease add-on. And that add-on would be then specific around if your event is cancelled due to the government saying stop, pretty much because of communicable disease, then you would be covered.
Yeah.
And until that lockdown happened, there would have been no coverage. So 99% of events wouldn't have had that insurance, and the small percentage who did, it wouldn't have triggered until this has happened. Fear or threat is usually excluded. So it was really down to the government making the call, which then just stopped everything.
Yeah. How many events have you seen having to claim for insurance in a normal year? As a ratio or percentage?
I can go off what we've done. I reckon we've probably been involved in since March 2018. So we've just ticked over our second anniversary. We've probably been involved in close to 450 to 500 events, and they're from the small to the large. Claims wise, we've been quite lucky in respect of we've got a very good industry who runs very tight ships and really good events. So claims wise, we've not had many. Yes, the Christchurch attack did cause cancellation of quite a lot of events. So we were hit there, but very, 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 very small claims, very, very small numbers wise. So it'd be very, very small, maybe less than, maybe less than 1% to 2%.
Oh wow!
We've had so not many. Yeah, exactly, not many at all. And that's because, as I said, good, well-run events down here. Quite a good understanding of, whilst not necessarily insurance is top of everyone's mind in respect of event professionals, risk management is. So
absolutely. That's the only thing we manage. Everything relates to risk.
And that mindset, that she'll be right attitude is kind of what gets us through. Not that people would rely on insurance, but if the weather does become quite bad, what do we do to combat that? What do we do to change it a little bit? Because the mindset of an event professional in New Zealand is the event will not be cancelled. That's it. The event will go ahead.
The show must go on.
Correct.
Open those curtains.
It is, and that's great and refreshing to know. And certainly when we're having those conversations, those are the types of events we want to be involved in, because it just speaks highly of their mindset and their psyche around. We're going to do everything possible here. To a certain extent, obviously, health and safety is paramount. So it's not that an event is going to go ahead to the detriment of people's health and safety. It's insurance is there as a backstop, effectively. Sure. If we've exhausted all avenues and it's too dangerous or it cannot proceed, the insurance is there to cover them if we have to make the call. But we don't see many events. I mean, you might not be able to name many events that you've seen yourself which have been cancelled in New Zealand. We don't have many large-scale cancellations.
Is it the same in the UK? That attitude?
Probably. Yeah, I'd say that event professionals generally have probably got the same attitude. I mean, in the UK, the US, they'll just have the greater numbers, so obviously the claims will be different, and just different risk, total different risk. The weather is the main one here. Yes, we've had the earthquake issues, but even with the weather, we adapt. Our outdoor event moves inside. We
put a rain jacket on.
Correct. Take a concrete pill, and we make it work. When it doesn't, when it can't, when it becomes too dangerous, when it becomes impossible, then that's where insurance, kicks in.
Yeah.
So for 2 years, it's really been about spreading the word, having conversations, making sure that people are aware who we are, what we do. We are still New Zealand's only provider of this insurance, well, exclusively. And our main aim, or my main aim 2 years ago, was to become the authority in this space. And we're slowly getting there. People are more educated, people are more aware. People now start to understand how this works.
Are you still based in Auckland?
Yeah, so we're based in Auckland, but we service the entire country. Any events that are taking place from New Zealand companies anywhere in the world, we can get involved with.
Oh, nice one. So do you have plans to go international?
Well, you know,
dominate New Zealand and then head overseas?
I think we've got some work to do here first.
Yep.
I think we've got some work to do here in respect of just making sure people are adequately covered and educated, and then we'll see where we go. But
nice one.
It's you know, I'm confident we're going to come out of this pretty strong and kick on. And from our perspective, I think people will be more aware of risk or what can happen.
For sure.
And it's you know, that hopefully should mean that we have more conversations in the future regarding insurance.
Yeah. When you mentioned earlier that rates would probably go up around the insurance industry, do you have any insight into how much and what that will look like?
One of the major events that we're working on at the moment, which is not due to take place until the start of next year, already the conversations that we're having around building the structure and the policy, as the rates have already increased, and that's within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
My view is that those rates will probably likely double.
Okay.
Which is scary to think. Within the next couple of months, when those claims start to hit the market, when we start to see how much Wimbledon is going to cost, how much the Olympics is going to cost to reschedule, when we start to see those claims come into Lloyd's, who we work on behalf of, we'll get a better understanding of, firstly, who's left standing in respect of what insurance is still, there. Some insurance companies will go out of business off the back of this. Some insurance companies will not be able to write insurance, and that will mean rates will increase. My thoughts are that they're going to increase quite dramatically. We'll see.
Yeah, but that's just that's to cover everyone's costs. There might be less. There might be, obviously it's about managing risk, right? So if there's more event cancellations, then it's going to be costlier for you guys. It's going to be it's just how business works.
It is. I mean, it is.
It's not as hard line as that, but everyone has to be sustainable and make sure that their organization is ticking along correctly.
Well, that's how insurance works. There's a pot, and your premiums go into a pot to cover your losses. And insurance works on the basis that, for 100 events, there'll be one loss. Or maybe the 80-20 rule will come into play. But that's effectively how it works. There'll be a pool of money available to pay those losses. And depending how much these losses will be, as I said, they're going to be in the billions. That will then dictate what the rates will be like going forward. Capacity, when I refer to capacity will be just, who's available to provide the insurance. The large events have a number of syndicates. So syndicates being the insurers in Lloyd's. So like Wimbledon, for example, may have 10 different insurers working on it, providing the insurance. And off the back of this, there may be only 5 that are available. And so their capacity will be diminished. So it's a waiting game. It really is.
Yeah, everyone, all industries.
I mean, we've got time because we're sat here, so
that's the one. Yeah.
But this time will give us a good kind of breathing space to plan and to focus on what we do next. And
what are you doing with your time at the moment? Have you got any lofty goals to do over the next 4 weeks?
We've got 2 kids, so we've got a 5-year-old and we've got a 1-year-old. So our focus at the moment is keeping.
So you've got no time.
I've got no idea. I've got no idea what day it is. It feels like a Tuesday. It's probably not.
Happy Friday, mate. You deserve a weekend.
But our focus at the moment is from a personal perspective, making sure the kids are okay. Obviously, it's a huge change for them. especially with our 5-year-old who's in his first year at school. So this is a huge change. So he's trying to keep in contact with his friends as much as he can via Zoom, who are probably making an absolute killing off the back of this. And
absolutely.
They are just trying to communicate as much as they can, trying to get as much, trying to get him out in the garden as much as you can, keep him occupied, coloring, drawing, Legos. From a business perspective, it's just trying to be as present as possible. Just trying to provide that comfort to our clients in respect of we're here. We are deemed an essential service, so we're open for business. Have conversations, ask questions, and just talk to us. Whatever we can do, especially in the wedding space, it's been really, because it's such a personal event, and it's really the only event that we run ourselves, to a certain extent anyway. It's just making sure that we can do as much as possible for our clients who've our wedding couples have just had the rug pulled from underneath them. So if they're able to reschedule, then we're there for them, and we'll continue to provide assistance to them. Those that aren't able to, it's been difficult because obviously they've got no cover in place for something of this nature. So again, it's just making sure that we're having a lot of conversations, and our plan over these next couple of weeks is just to continue to
operate and help everyone out.
Yeah, I mean that's our end goal. From day one, it was education, it was advocacy. We're making sure that we're as close contact as possible with the associations in the various spaces, just to provide them as much information as possible, so they can then pass on to their members. And conversation. Really, a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to get in front of you and have a conversation with you is fantastic, because hopefully we can hit a few people at least who will get some benefit from this. Yeah,
for sure, and that's the whole reason why want to do this, because then get the message out. Obviously, all industries are talk to a few interesting, brainy people like yourself, and hopefully provide some value. It's interesting about the comments you've made in the wedding space. I was talking to a mate of mine the other day. He's a chaplain, and he said it's really complex around the wedding space. Obviously, he had a few weddings on the books that were booked in and they've had to cancel. But the funeral space, like, you can't delay that sort of thing. It's another kettle of fish.
I don't know how they're doing it. Like, I was having a conversation around how our celebrants can people still get married if the celebrant is kind
virtual?
If and I don't believe they can, but a lot of these
legally.
I believe they have to be there. There have to be witnesses, and they've got to be signed and so forth. So there's obviously the legal aspect, but a lot of these celebrants are also involved in funerals, and that did cross my mind. It's like that can't stop. That still goes ahead.
I don't know. He says it's a really complex issue to face, and he's trying to work it out as he goes, because he hasn't actually had any funerals come up, but he imagines there might be a few during this time. So just have to see. It's just interesting what's happening. It has all these peripheral effects that you just don't quite expect. But in saying that, there's a lot of positivity that's coming out of it. Communities are coming together, families are spending more time with each other, people are rethinking their lives and what's important.
I read I don't know if you read the Aaron Carter from Total Sport did a really good LinkedIn piece yesterday.
No, I didn't see that.
His his own personal views on the various stages. Obviously he's had a number of events which he's had to cancel, and he's got a number of events coming up throughout the course of the year, and his own personal view of when the country went to level 1, when it went to level 2, and his own personal battles of his mind was and and that really struck home, because yes, we see these events as kind of like a corporate brand, but behind that are real people. And that was really kind of refreshing to read, that this is affecting people. Even with the large events, there are people at every level of those organizations or those companies. There are people, and we all bleed the same, and this is going to affect everybody in their own way. But at the end of the day, we've all got families. We're all able to, kind of come together, have these
families, it's communities, it's regions. It's everyone. We're all in this together. There's no escape.
And that's been interesting. It's because I can't recall anywhere. I don't know. It's probably not. It's New Zealand has never been in other than being involved in wars and so forth to a certain extent. New Zealand has never been brought into global incidents of this nature. So it's, we are all in this together. Everybody. This is a global pandemic. So we're all having the same conversations. My conversations with my friends and family back home are catching up with those guys, see how they're going, and they want to know how we are doing in New Zealand, because to them, New Zealand is this far-flung country, the bottom of the world, and it's kind of like a paradise to them. But we're all brought together. We're having the same issues.
But the world's getting smaller, right? With globalization, it's easier than ever to find yourself on the other side of the planet. And also, we can just like you and me are doing right now. You can jump over to America just through Skype and talk to your friends, family, see what's going on, know how they're feeling. So the world's getting smaller and smaller. We're getting even more connected, and especially with what's going on, people are checking in with each other. They're finding out how each other are, what's going on inside their heads.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we should be able to triumph at this stage, because we've got everything is at our fingertips. Everything is at our fingertips. Yes, okay, we're stuck inside, but as we said, Netflix is there 24/7. We're able to speak to our friends and family around the world. We're still able to go out and get some fresh air as much as we can. We're still able to eat. We've still got our health. We've got our loved ones around us. We've pretty much got everything we need to be able to function. We're still working.
Exactly.
We've got it pretty easy as long as we're safe and well. And I think if we just continue that mindset, then I think we should be okay to a certain extent. We're pretty lucky. We are pretty lucky. Yeah,
definitely. On that note, Stu, it's been a pleasure. You're a champion. Is there any final words of wisdom for the viewers out there that you've got?
Just keep up the conversation. People are there. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. So if anyone's got any questions, wants to have some conversation off the back of this, then reach out. And
how can people find you?
So event cover, which is www.eventcover.co.nz.
There it is.
On the wedding, it's www.weddingcoverinsurance.co.nz, and email is stu@eventcover.co.nz. So just pick up the phone and give us a call. Drop us an email. We're on all the major, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn. So yeah, here to have conversations, which are taking place, which is good. And just stay safe. Sit down. Enjoy Friends rerun.
Magic. Awesome, Stu. Thanks so much for jumping on. You're a champion. We'll catch up soon.
Stay safe, mate. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Peace.
Cheers, mate. Bye.